Cesar Hernandez is not here because apparently somebody was arrested on his flight. So we have Kori instead. We have Shay Safazadeh, Shab Safarzadeh. Was it somebody? Did he get arrested? No, he didn't get arrested. Somebody on the flight.
Wait, you have mine.
No, you're about. She's about to get one. And Wolfe-Andersen. They're going to introduce themselves and talk about diversity and funding. Thank you.
We are. Perfect. All right. Well, hello, everyone. Oh, it is on. Okay. Just kidding. I'm Kori, Hale, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Culture Banks. I'm also a proud founding member of the Black Innovation Alliance group, and I'm very excited to be here to talk all things diversity, women, tech, startups, and what happened with Silicon Valley Bank.
Hi, I'm Wolfe-Andersen, and I am co-founder and chief mindset officer of the Bravery strategy. And we work with early stage entrepreneurs to help them build businesses bravely. And we also work with established business leaders to help them cultivate truly connected cultures. And pretty much everything we do is based in diversity. So very excited to be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Shab. I am the co-founder and CEO of Advanced eClinical. We are a medical e-learning company. I'm very excited to join the conversation on diversity in medicine. Thank you for having us. Diversity in entrepreneurship.
Hello, my name is Shay. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of Advanced eClinical. We provide fully online medical certification programs for pre-health students. So I'm really excited to talk about my journey. Shab and I, we have an unconventional entrepreneurial story. And we had a lot of hurdles, so I'm really excited to talk about being a diverse founder and a woman and how we kind of surpassed those hurdles.
Yeah, so I guess then collectively we can all just share our stories really quickly. I am a former investment banker turned media entrepreneur and launched another company that went on to be very successful called Cheddar. And then I launched my own media company, Culture Banks, because I wanted to be able to fill the void in the market when it came to high-level business, finance, and economic news for the African-American community. And part of my struggles, which I'm pretty sure all of us can relate to, being a female founded company, is that the bar always seems to be a lot higher for women founders in terms of what we have to show up to the table with in order to get access to capital, in order to get checks written. And I think specifically being a Black female founder, there were even more additional hurdles. It wasn't enough that I was already an investment banker. It wasn't enough that I was already a credentialed media journalist and a trailblazer in my own right, being the first Black woman to ever anchor a daily news show from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange and its 220-year history. You'd think that'd be enough to get people to open up their checkbooks, but it wasn't. And so there was a lot more that had to happen along the way. And I think that that's very similar to what all female founders, how much more successful did I have to be already on my own to get people to believe in what I was building?
Definitely, and I would love to add to that. So my sister and I, we didn't have any business background, and unfortunately, women make up less than 2% of investor money, and then Black or people of color, only less than 0.02% of investor money can come to people of color and women. And I believe that really, we should be pushing for a seat at the table as well. For my sister and I specifically, accelerators really opened up the door, also incubators. It opened up an ecosystem of a network that we started to take part of, and really not being afraid to reach out to investors, connect with them, because I believe when you open up the connection towards investors or VCs, they also do the same towards you. And I believe that today, diversity is very important, and we should really take advantage of that. And on your pitch deck, write about your diverse background. Tell them, that I'm a Black woman or I'm a female from Iran, and I think that definitely will push you forward or give you an advantage. Anything you would like to add, Shay?
Well, I really like what you were saying about using your story as part of your strategy to connect with investors. I do think it is very different for everybody. I mean, I will say, Kori, my experience was actually the opposite. My background is I was I come from a very strange kind of military, living all over, but also Mormon, so like very strange and restrictive background. And at the age of 19, I became pregnant. I was homeless. So I had to navigate school and raising a kid while I was a kid. And I ended up in a sales context. Because I was white, I think is what it really was, there were some doors that were open to me immediately. And I think I did have some leaders that were smart and thought, oh, she's going to work really hard because she has to take care of her kid. So they were leveraging the diversity in that respect. But when I got into those spaces, I did not have the common background because I, was somewhat articulate. They thought that I got some of the things and understood some of the shorthand. But once I was in there, it was hard for them to value the perspective that I brought, even though it was actually incredibly, I was able to really transform a lot of the sales contexts that I was in, a lot of the teams that I was on because of the way I thought and was able to connect. But just operationally, they didn't know what to do with me because I didn't understand some of the social norms of the people who were raised in similar contexts. And so that became a little bit difficult. But I feel like a lot of that is it was because they did not, what a lot of business leaders don't understand is the need for a linguistic and operational context that's very clearly communicated to everyone in the team and the organization so that it's much easier for everyone to develop that shorthand. So I think what's really happening is there's a lot of cognitive, cognitive dissonance, because I do think some business leaders want to hire diversely and create diverse teams, but they want them to all behave in a way that they think everybody should behave. And without laying that out very clearly and creating those operational and linguistic frameworks that will enable that, there are a lot of issues with getting everybody on that same page. So I do think that we are in a time where things are changing drastically, and there is a lot of opportunity for diversity. And I think we just need to educate a lot of business leaders on, number one, how incredibly valuable diversity of thought is, especially in as we go into the future. The cognitive agility and emotional intelligence are two of the most important skills that people are hiring for. And who has more cognitive agility and emotional intelligence than people who've had to navigate a lot of different environments, people who haven't necessarily had maybe the same people around them all the time, or maybe who weren't necessarily guided along the traditional route. And so making space for that does require some initial investment on that front end, but it's well worth the investment.
I agree. And I think the most important part of diversity is diversity brings perspective. So really highlighting or really amplifying diverse founders, you're showing a different perspective on things, which I believe is really important. And if we amplify diverse founders, it will then eventually lead to diverse investors, and it will just be a cycle in this ecosystem of diversity.
I agree. Go ahead, Kori.
No, I was going to just send a little women love out here. First of all, I love that you guys are twins, if you guys couldn't tell.
Thank you.
Already. I love that they're twins because I love entrepreneurship in general, but I love family-run businesses even more. It's very important when it comes to things like generational wealth and, uplifting different communities and economies. And I actually love that you grew up Mormon. You didn't say you were still Mormon because I used to live in Salt Lake City for a little bit. Yeah. But I was going to say specifically when it comes to diversity, because a lot of times, especially here in the U.S., we look at diversity across gender lines. We look at diversity across different ethnicities. But you're right. Diversity of thought also comes into how you were brought up and what your background is. And that makes a very big difference in terms of how you're able to present yourself authentically, for whatever businesses it is that you're building. So that was all I wanted to add.
Thank you. I would like to send some woman love out as well.
Thank you. Oh my God. I feel so empowered with you ladies. Honestly, you guys are mind blowing. I love it.
Well, I do think that women, having more women in the workplace these days. I do think there is a lot more emphasis on mission-driven organizations having a larger mission. I do think it is providing a lot. It's almost like giving permission to business leaders and just people within organizations to actually want something greater than just profit. I do think that those old models of profit before anything else are really unsustainable, and we're seeing the effects of that. Often what I hear a lot of business leaders say are things like, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody wants to work anymore. They just want all this time off. Everybody wants to work, but they don't want to be taken advantage of anymore. So if you cannot provide a framework within your organization to help every person within that organization easily and clearly connect how their contribution to the purpose and the priorities of that organization also directly contributes to their personal and professional priorities and goals, then you're just not going to have a very effectively run organization. And it's to leverage. I can't understate how important it is to leverage diversity, especially like we're in what Nicholas Nassim Taleb calls a VUCA world, which means very volatile and uncertain. So whatever we think used to work, we have no idea if it's going to work because we don't know what the hell is about to happen. And so in order to prepare for that, having people with the ability to think agilely and also to be able to draw from a variety of perspectives and creative ideas is so integral to success in the future in such an uncertain world. So I'm really hoping that people start to see how important that investment on the front end of their culture creation actually drives the bottom line. These aren't two separate things. Diversity is not some Pollyanna, et cetera. It's not like, oh, let's all just hold hands. I mean, I wish it was, but at this point, like people really do have to look at the metrics, the financial metrics and growth metrics, and see how to fuel those. And it really comes down to the people within your organization.
Right. I totally agree. And I think I would just like to add something quick is that diversity is an untapped market, right? So if investors really realize that, the returns are so high, it's so much potential. Like Shab said, it's a brand new perspective. And I think just us being up here, it brings awareness to it. And I'm really excited to be part of this movement.
Kori, have you seen any changes in your, what are you seeing in the financial and tech realms in terms of if there's been any improvement or?
I thought you were going to say in terms of what happened yesterday. No, that's a moment in time. That too shall pass, just like the money passed in the sky. That was a joke, bad joke for lots of startups that are struggling behind what SVB did right now. But I will say there is a lot of upside, right, to diversity, not just for us as women entrepreneurs, because women in general, we start more businesses here in the U.S. Specifically, Black women start more businesses than any other ethnic demographic, even though we're not being funded. Right, thank you. Shout out to Shay. Even though we're not being funded necessarily at the same level as other organizations, which is beyond problematic, there is still hope because I know that there are way more like intentional, diverse investing venture capital funds now than there were back in 2020 or back in 2018 when I started my company. So that gives us a lot of reason, right, to be optimistic, to be hopeful for the future, right? There are people that are saying not only are we getting into investing in startups, but investing intentionally from the time we take on LPs to let them know, hey, we are actually going to be deploying this capital in a way that matters and in a way that can be sustainable to help communities, because at some point in time, right, the wealth narrative in this country is going to start to shift. I don't know if that was good.
No, that was great.
That's totally woo. I think as a diverse founder, I was always so scared. I didn't know about the resources. I didn't know my capabilities as a diverse founder and a woman, as well as a woman. So I think it's really important also to know who you are and know your capabilities, wholeheartedly believe in yourself. And yes, it's difficult when you're surrounded by, Harvard grads, white male who have all this money, but don't take what you have and your achievements and what you can create for granted. Always know who you are as a woman and a diverse founder, and make that really prevalent in your pitch. And that's something that I'm really passionate about, because I think it comes down to your confidence. And, as a woman, I think, like we talked about earlier, I think men generally just have higher confidence than women in this space, and it's always so much easier for them to raise money. But I think we just have to know who we are and be able to really express that.
That's such a good point, because a big part of what we work on with clients, especially our individual entrepreneur clients who are typically women, is using your story as your success strategy. And so what I've found is it's really hard to get a lot of women to sit there and really talk about themselves, or to really even figure out what it is they actually want, or to articulate it, or to admit it. And I do think that there, even now, are a lot of expectations on women to take care of other people. So
Consistently. Isn't that the plight of women? We always are taking care of everyone else around us, but we are reclaiming our thrones, everyone, in the broader business community, in the broader business sector, because there's a great opportunity for women to be at the top, to create change. And I mean, all great nations are built on the back of strong women.
That's very true.
Let's do
And
it.
one person, I'm also in a graduate program at UT, and it's called the Human Dimensions of Organizations. It's all about this stuff. It's amazing. And we, in our Approaches to Leadership class, we just read Michelle Obama's Becoming. And this was after reading Clausewitz and like Machiavelli and all these really intense texts. And to read that book in the context of leadership, it is such an incredible example of what is possible with a very female way of leading. A lot of people don't see her as like the great leader that she actually is, but the confines she was working within as the first lady, as the first Black first lady, and the amount of things that she was able to accomplish by actually inviting people in and creating these like frameworks that people could see how it would affect them is absolutely phenomenal. I invite everybody to reread that book from that perspective of leadership. It's amazing.
Well, thank you, girls. It was an absolute pleasure sharing this panel with you. I learned so much from you guys, and thank you.
On to the next.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.